Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. I scored quite a bit of fatwood yesterday. For those of you that are not familiar with fatwood, it's just pine that has retained the resin inside of it and lost most of the moisture content. So the real sappy, sticky stuff. And I was going to process some down just to put in some kits. I like pieces maybe an inch by an inch, something like that, maybe as big as my finger each direction. To put in kits, you can do a lot with that much. It's really personal preference on the amount that you want to carry, but that's a fair amount in my opinion. So to process it, I know I've talked about this several different times, but you can use a knife and a baton. So this is the knife of the month. This is the Wright pronghorn, and that's in 01. I'm about to scoot forward just a shade, try to get us out of the sun. Sorry. So it's 01 pronghorn, orange G10, Scandi grind. This dude is, I'm gonna say it's tied with the Bush Baby for my favorite option. But anywho, so if we process this down, I don't know if you can see, there is sap on this. See my fingerprint getting transferred in it? There's sap on this blade, and it's hard to get off sometimes. I'm about to move forward one more time just to try to get out of this sun. Sorry. So in case you do not have a fixed blade knife, this is another way that you can do this. This is a wedge that can be made with a Swiss Army knife. Use the saw and the blade to process this down. And sometimes, I'll show you one that I had done recently. Lots of times you can find fatwood more along this size. These just come off of a much larger piece. And you can make your wedge. So it's just wedged on one end, and just got a nice little rounded end on the other. And find you something to put it on. If you're doing this, you could put it on a rock if you wanted to. See which way you want to go. I have to try this other end. Got rounded her right off. Be a hard piece there for us. Let's look at this one. Sometimes you can go between the grains on these things. End up processing it down a little easier. That's about the size that I like right there, just to keep in a kit. And you can stick this, I've been using the little waxed linen cloth. So like a braid, a waxed braid that you would use for sewing leather. I've been using that a lot, and it has a cardboard cord that it comes on. You can slide this down in that core. I just think that's clean it up a little bit. And you can take and score these sometimes. So like if you had just any type of blade, you don't have to do much other than just get a little spot to get it started. You could do that with, of course I'd baton a more. I mean, a lot of these things, if I just had a Mora knife or whatever, I would just baton it. But you just have to be okay with having resin on your stuff. And it does beat up your wedge a good bit, but you're using a wooden tool, so what do you expect? But it'll keep your blade clean anyway. And you know, he said it's possible that you're just using a, well, it's busting my base plate there is part of the reason it's being so tough, putting it on this and it's just beating it into the ground. If I had a more firm place to put it on, it'd be much better. This is some pretty primo stuff. For sake of demonstration purposes, I'm not gonna use my knife other than just to touch up my wedge to do this stuff. But again, the easiest way to make this work is to take your, and you just have to, just one little tap, you don't even have to, just give it a place to get started is all that you have to do. You can do that with a Swiss Army knife or the saw on there. You can take and then you just put your wedge right in that hole, that little line there. See it opening up. This is good looking stuff too. For what we're doing, we'll say we have a Leatherman. We want to process this down one more time. So I'm going to put my Leatherman up here. Just get me a spot started on there. Beating it right through my, what you call it. This one already has a few, but you could use this just as well as a Swiss Army knife or an old timer or a buck 110 or whatever you happen to have. And it may take longer to do some of this stuff, but knowing how to do it just in case isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's a better spot to beat it on. A rock would be good. I still have one right in my general vicinity. Put it on this other piece of fatwood, I guess. But anywho, I was just gonna bust some up and figured I would share while I was experimenting. Wood bacon, that's primo. Anywho, look y'all, I know it seems kind of tough to do, but it's not that hard, and easier to try it out in like your backyard than if you really were to need it. Just an option to have in a toolbox. Anywho, later.